We're here tonight to honor a truly remarkable musician and a giant in the world of jazz. Widely considered one of the most influential drummers of all time and known for his virtuoso technique, power, and speed, Buddy Rich lived up to the billing of world's greatest drummer. He was He was truly a genius who started playing drums when he was just 18 months old, completely self-taught. He performed in vaudeville as Traps, the drum wonder. By the mid-1930s, he discovered jazz, playing with the Joe Marsala and propelling Bunny Berrigan's orchestra. He went on to work with Artie Shaw, ultimately, and you know this, making history with Tommy Dorsey from 1939 to 1945. His career included tours with Norman Grand's Jazz at the Philharmonic and studio work for Verve Records, in which he collaborated with everyone from Charlie Parker to Lester Young, Art Tatum to Lionel Hampton, and many others. In 1966, he defied convention and put together his own big band, which toured successfully for the last 20 years of his life. Before we continue, let's watch this video about the extraordinary Buddy Rich.
My next guest is probably, would you say, the world's greatest drummer? One of the best drummers in the world. Let's say one of the best. Awfully good. Fair to middling drummer. Mr. Buddy Rich, an easy name to pronounce, an easy name to forget. A lot of people think Buddy Rich is the greatest drummer in the world. They think that mainly because Mr. Rich has informed them of that fact. He is one of the world's, if not the world's greatest drummer, a fact brought home to me by Mr. Rich time after time after time. He's appearing at Disneyland this week, and Snow White and her little friends will never be the same. He is appearing tomorrow night at the Farmers Fairgrounds, one of the great jazz festivals, I guess. Another time in Tomorrowland. Here he is, the Prince of Darkness. Would you welcome Mr. Humble, Mr. Humility. Welcome Mr. Buddy Rich. Mr. Warmth is here.
But I already have a father. His name was John Fitzgerald Archer, and he was a fighter ace, and he won the Navy Cross, and his men called him...
Blackjack Archer. I know, dear, I know. Because I made it all up.
But...
what was I to do? Tell a 3-year-old his father might be in the KGB?
What? What do you mean, might be?
So, there may or may not be a few other possibles in the mix.
Tell me how my father might be Nikolai Jakov, head of the KGB, or Len Trexler, head of Odin. I assume those are my only choices. Oh my, who else?
Gene Krupa.
What?
Not Krupa, the other one with the teeth. Buddy Rich.
Oh, my
I could never say no to a drummer.
Before they formed their joint partnership, Tommy Tong and Richard Cheech Marin briefly worked as Channel 6 meteorologists.
Tomorrow, a high-pressure front brings a strong possibility of drizzle.
Then the doobie of destiny changed their lives forever when police burned marijuana seized from the Buddy Rich Orchestra in a nearby lot.
So, check your barometer, thermometer, anemometer. Why does everything have to have an ometer on it?
And what is rain, man? It's like we're in the apartment under God and his fat sister overflowed the tub.
Hi, who are you?
I'm Buddy Rich, world famous drummer.
We already got one. Ever hear of a drummer called Animal?
Are you kidding? All drummers are animals.
Now I'll come to you. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4.
Once I get up behind the drums on the bandstand, all pain leaves me, all anxiety leaves me, and I just love what I'm doing. I love playing music as much as I love karate. I love the challenge of both, and I'm very happy doing both.
Let's take a look at Buddy Rich at his very best, and he is the very best.
Wow, that little kid really grew up.
When can you do your number?
Oh, anytime you want me to, Colonel.
Do you need to talk to the band?
Who needs a band?
Oh, no band? Fantastic. Just you and a drum kit.
Who needs drums?
No drums?
No drums. You just go right into it.
Hey, you know what? You should be doing this on stage.
To the stage!
To the stage!
How great is that? So we've gathered a number of terrific guests to celebrate Buddy Rich's centennial. First, an Emmy Award-winning drummer who's led his own band and played with recording artists such as Joe Walsh and Rick Nielsen, among many others. Currently, he is the drummer for the Buddy Rich Big Band. Please welcome Gregg Potter.
Yeah.
Next, a member of a band you may have heard of, the Red Hot Chili Peppers. Our next guest was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in 2012, widely regarded as one of rock music's best drummers. He's known for his musicianship, as well as your commitment to music education, which we appreciate. Give it up for Chad Smith. Career may have begun at birth. One of the youngest people ever to be signed by a major record label, she began her recording career at the age of 12, singing The Beat Goes On behind her father's band on the album, and I love this album title, Big Swing Face. Let's all say that together. On three. 1, 2, 3. Big Swing Face. I love that. A successful singer and actress, she's devoted her life to preserving her father's musical legacy. Would you please welcome Cathy Rich. We got mics for everybody here. Are we good?
We got the kisser already.
Yeah.
We've known each other a long
Lucky guys. Lucky guy. So Cathy, I do want to start with you because, you know, it's the accepted story that your father began playing drums at something ridiculous like 18 months old. But I read something that it could have been sooner. You know, yeah, I don't know how, but so tell us the story about how he began.
Well, as my grandparents told me, and then my father later on,
Right.
is that he was actually in his high chair in the kitchen, and they were playing the radio. My grandparents were in vaudeville, and they had a song and dance act, so music was playing in the house a lot. And apparently, he was sitting in his high chair with a knife and fork, or a spoon, or whatever, and he was tapping along to the music on the radio. And my grandfather looked around and saw that's interesting, and then he kept doing it, kept playing along. So they kept changing the channel on the radio, and he would play in time to whatever tune was on. My grandfather, being a very smart man, decided it was time to 86 my grandmother from the act and put Buddy in.
Put Buddy in the act.
That was it.
So
that's how it began.
Speaking of the act and vaudeville in particular, did they tell you, you know, what kinds of places was he playing as Traps the Drum Wonder? Where would they go?
Theaters. There were theaters.
Yeah.
I guess there were theater circuits in those days.
Yeah.
And they would play the circuit there, the Catskill circuit, and then there was Broadway, and my dad was in the Ziegfeld Follies when he was 4 years old, so it's pretty insane.
Yeah.
About it.
And when he was doing that, what kind of repertoire? What was he playing? Do you know?
I really don't know. All I know is that when he was really little, that he would close their act doing Stars and Stripes Forever. That was the big finale, the big amazing thing.
And I understand he was also one of the highest paid child performers.
He and Jackie Coogan were the two highest
amazing.
child.
Do you have any idea? I have no idea if you know the answer to this question. I'm wondering what that meant.
How much you mean?
Yeah,
I have no idea.
Yeah.
But imagine, I mean, to be the highest, and Jackie Coogan was a movie star.
Right.
So
right.
That was pretty good for them.
Yeah, remarkable.
Would they go all over the country?
They went all over the world.
All over the
when
world.
my dad was 6 years old, I mean, now imagine, it's the 1920s, and you're traveling to Australia on a steamship.
Jeez.
So it must have taken 6 months to get there.
To get there, yeah.
I mean, seriously.
Yeah.
So he was 7 by the time he arrived.
You'd already grown out of the act by the time you got
Needed new clothes, so.
And the ship at that time didn't have Wi-Fi.
Amazing.
Yeah, no video games.
But obviously your grandparents, they decided to arm him with weapons like knives. I like that thing. He was in his knife shit. He was in his knife shit
with a knife.
Yeah. When you were growing up around the house, what music would you hear? What were your parents playing around the house?
Funnily enough, my dad loved listening to singers. He was a singer guy.
Yeah.
So it was Tony Bennett, it was Frank Sinatra, it was Ella, it was, Ray Charles, it was all the greatest.
Right.
So, he was really into singers. He was a romantic man. Really,
well, and because I want to talk about singers in a minute, but Greg, I want to go to you because you're now playing drums in the Buddy Rich band. That's no pun intended here. That's large sticks to fill.
Because Cathy told me I could.
So tell me about a sense of responsibility for you.
Yeah, I mean, after showing that intro tape, which I actually have nerve to go on after that. I was hoping they maybe could show that after it was over. My mom will already pick me up. I'll be on from the gig. Then just show you what the real guy did. But so I mean, like on a personal level, right? You're not taking over. No one's replacing Buddy. There are several. I mean, I actually do have Wi-Fi now, so I have the internet. And you can see there are people. There's probably a 6-year-old somewhere that can drive a forklift, a unicycle, and play drums all at the same time. So I mean, I know technically it's an amazing feat to even try to play that, but to take on the Buddy Rich legacy, and yes, and not that Cathy and our whole relationship is based on Buddy and his drumming and all, but even prior to knowing Cathy, I mean, when we talked to Chad, I just heard Chad talking about it. Many of the drummers in the audience, you just grew up, and if you played the drums, that man, it was just, yes, you could talk about different groups, and I'll get back to how it is for me playing it, but I'm just saying, the magnitude of it, I never want to make it that I think I'm doing it.
Got it.
Yes, we do it because, yes, we do it. It's not going to be like when God, you see who they chose to play Batman or Superman? My God, it's not like that. It wasn't like, oh, let's do a talent search and we'll find the next. It's not that. I mean, but I'm saying to play these, and I get to go out with the band who is actually Buddy alumni, meaning these men right out of college or early on in their careers, because they've been around a little bit. We all tell everyone we're 26, but we're really not. I'm 28. But I mean, but I'm just saying, so to taking this on and really doing it and being allowed to tour the world like I have, it's a drummer's dream come true, but it's also the drummer's biggest nightmare because you're just...
What do you do?
What do you do? At least when he plays a Red Hot Chili Pepper song, he invented it. So I mean, it's his tune. You know what I mean? He doesn't go up there and go, So you invented it. I didn't invent Love for Sale.
Chad, tell me the first time you heard Buddy Rich.
I heard watching the Tonight Show. Those clips were pretty funny.
Yeah.
And
by the way, how great is Johnny Carson? I'm sorry.
A drummer himself, and I think that was a really big part of it, that they were friends.
Absolutely.
And Johnny really, obviously appreciated, the drumming of Buddy. But yeah, I would be a young kid. I started playing very young at 7. So I remember, a few years after that, where I could kind of play the drums a little bit, and watching late night television and seeing Buddy Rich on the Tonight Show and Johnny Carson, and with the banter, and he was so funny, and everything about him. I was like, this guy is really something. And then he would go and sit down at the drum set, and I would just be like, you never saw anybody do that.
Yeah.
Any person play the way that he played. And I was saying earlier, like, it's where your eyes, even just this clip of him, when just the hands and the slowing and the speeding up, and after a while you see something and your eyes don't, it's not the same thing as what you're seeing doesn't make sense to your ears. Like when Jimi Hendrix would play off and you would see his hands moving, it's not what I'm hearing, it doesn't make sense. And that's such a physical, instrument, the drumming, and how he played, and like they said, the power, it was really amazing to me. Yeah, it left a real impression on me.
He talked often, and he used this very specific word about driving the band. What interpret that for those of us who don't play drums? What does driving the band mean to you guys?
Well, yeah, I mean, with the Buddy Rich band, or playing with a big band, it's really like 4 different groups up there. I'm not saying that playing with a rock group is any less, but I've done both, and you usually have, you know, one bass player who usually owns a van, and that's why he's in there. And then you got a lead.
Ooh, we're cutting on bass players.
No, it's okay. I'm really close with Cathy. So, all the job security right there. No, but I mean, it's a smaller group. You have a lead guitar player, a lead singer, and that's it.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that you don't have to drive a rock group, but with the big band, when Buddy said I'm driving a band, think of more of, you have whole sections. You've got a whole sax. How do you call saxophones? What do they call?
Yeah, saxophones.
Yeah. You got a sax section. You got your bones right next to you. You've got your trumpets. So you've got 3 different groups right there. Then you have a rhythm section, piano and a bass player. So you're playing with. You're really listening to, you're driving, I don't know what other kind of bad, a stagecoach, where you've got those 8 horses, as opposed to, you know, a rock group is just like, I guess, a cool sports car. You just put your pedal down and it goes. Yeah. This thing is kind of, I don't mean it's just all old school or something. I'm just saying when Buddy said drive the band too, because this is another thing that, you know, you see with Buddy's music. Yeah. We talk about jazz, and we talk about Buddy playing jazz, and it's all about jazz. Buddy's not your standard quote unquote jazz artist. He played the drums and he drove that band. This is on tape, so I've got to watch. But like a rock group. Yeah. I mean, I do know when people study jazz, any percussion teachers throughout my career never use Buddy Rich as your. I mean, I don't know if you study. Never use Buddy as your example. Yeah. Right. He's too heavy on his bass drum. He's accenting. I mean, but then again. That's another kiss of death in this situation if you try to be Buddy. Right. But you're saying driving the band. Driving the band. What you need to do is when you have all those sections I was telling you about, if you let them start driving you, it's like putting the reins of the horse over the horse. Yeah. So here's a great quote of his, which I think I found in an interview he did in like 1955, believe it or not. Whereas in the days when it was necessary to swing a band, where a drummer had to be a powerhouse. Today, now remember this is the mid-1950s, today more or less the cool school has taken over. And I don't believe there's such a thing as a cool drummer. You either swing a band or you don't swing a band, and that's what's lacking today. There aren't many guys who get back there and play with any kind of guts. In my fighting, I like heavyweights. And in my music, I like emotionally good, strong, heavyweight type of jazz. Well,
to me, I mean, that makes perfect sense. I mean, watch him play, and you know, to say that a jazz drummer, he did love jazz, and he played in jazz bands, but they were also big bands. Right. Yeah. They're big bands, and that's exactly what it is. Lots of people. So you need to play. You can't have a light guy back there. You have to be a powerhouse, and he was, and that's what he enjoyed. And it's taste. It's taste in music. It's what you like, what you think is good. And what you enjoy listening to and playing, and that's, he was just voicing his opinion. He was like, in a 55, I mean, it's before like Elvin Jones and some of those guys, yes. But like, you know, the Cool J, Chet Bakers, and you know, I love them and everything, but yeah, there was a subtle thing that was happening. He didn't like it. He would not mince words about it. Not at all. But he also was like, this is what I think is good, and I'd rather have that than like, it's okay. I don't know. Yeah. He was never wishy-washy. Right, but here's one thing you say about Buddy Rich. Oh God, no. Vague about it. No. Great. You always knew. Yeah. He did. Especially with country music. Get to that later. Huge country fan. You guys know that. Huge. I love country music. Especially that song that I played. That's the one that you sang. He left the house for 2 weeks. But here's the other thing. But he had extraordinary range. I mean, he played vaudeville, he played swing, he played, you know, the big band jazz. He played behind Sinatra.
But
talk about his
it's the
range.
intensity of the man. It was, whether it was he played great in a big band, that was his favorite music to play because he liked how powerful it was. But yet, he would sit and play a ballad and be just as intense, but tender at the same time.
Right.
So, it was the emotion of the man coming through, and no matter what he was playing, in a small group, in a big band, in a trio, whatever, but it was him. And so you were getting his total personality coming through him, coming through the sticks.
Yeah.
That was who he was. And if there are guys that I know in rock bands that tell me, I'm practicing my solo for the tour. And I'm like, you play the same thing every night? It's the same thing every night?
I was just
How do
going
you
to-
play the same thing every night when you feel different every night, when the audience is different every night, and the vibe in the room is different every night? You
I
can't
was
play
just
the same
going-
thing every night.
Just going there, because he talked often about, he left the Harry James band because he couldn't stand the monotony of playing the same
thing.
charts every night.
Right.
It was not at all a creative exercise for him.
I think as any real, thriving, passionate, risk-taking, forward-thinking musician, you have to take chances when you play.
Yeah.
And I think that's the only way to have a real rewarding experience when you do gigs night after night after night. I see so many bands. My group travels with lots of festivals, and we see lots of bands. And these rock bands today, they just stand there and they kind of play the same song over and over. And I see a lot of the same bands, and it's like the same thing.
Yeah.
And I just like, I don't want to see that. That doesn't inspire me.
How do you keep it fresh?
But I'm old.
How do you keep it fresh for you?
Because we improvise. Our band, we play our songs.
Yeah.
And we switch up our songs. We don't play the same songs every night. We play some that people want to hear. I get that, and that's totally cool, and we do it. But we don't play in the same way every night. We change it. I change the fills. I change stuff. We change the dynamics. We make mistakes because we try shit out, and if it doesn't work, sometimes it doesn't work.
Well, that's what.
Oh well.
Yeah.
You have to take a chance. And like that's like exciting to me. I'd rather see someone try to do a double backflip and fall on his ass than like just do the same little pirouette every time.
A number of years ago, we had Stewart Copeland here, and he was talking about playing with the Police, and he said the most fun he's ever had on stage is when they screwed up and trying to figure out their way back into the song. They said that was the most fun.
That is where Stewart Copeland and I disagree.
I guess it can be a little daunting to screw up in front of like 50,000 people, and it's taken a while for everyone to get to bed.
Where am I?
One!
And you could still blame it all on Sting.
And he will.
Exactly. The guy doesn't even use his real name. Oh, I'm going to yell at Sting? It's Sting's fault. He's still in the whole, really the men that played with Buddy. And they, as soon as they're done, hold on a second.
Yeah, we're having a side conversation.
So we're having a side conversation.
Yeah.
So we're gonna go over to the poem. I'm gonna go with this.
So here's the other thing, and we talked about this upstairs. Even though Buddy was not well known for embracing rock music per se, but he was forward thinking in that, as I said, there was an interview in '67 where he talked about the advice. Somebody asked him advice that he would give to young musicians, and even though he did not necessarily like to do that, he did say the following: forget about the old days and concentrate on today's sounds.
Yes.
Now, I think in that context, he's talking about jazz, but
not necessarily. I mean, he really was a guy who didn't like to look back. He wasn't nostalgic in any way, certainly not in the music that he played, because it was all about what's coming. Let's look forward, it's straight ahead, let's, look to the future. And I like to think that I had a little something to do with that because of the music I was playing in the house.
Right.
And so he would come in if he heard me playing something that he liked, and he'd say, what is that? Who is that? And we'd sit and listen to the record, and he would sometimes take away and say, I don't have a chart written on that. I played the Beatles in the house. Loved it. Loved, certain things. The Doors, all the classic classic rock that I was listening to at the time. And yeah, I took him to see Led Zeppelin.
Get out. We have to hear more about this.
This is an interesting story because I was such a huge Led Zeppelin fan. They were playing at Madison Square Garden, and we're walking in, and all of the people recognized my dad because he's on TV every other day. So they're like, "Hey, buddy, you coming to see Bonham?" And it's like, "Yep, that's who I'm coming to see." Right? So we actually had seats like in the 4th row. Now Led Zeppelin, loud. I mean, louder than loud. And, I didn't complain about being loud, but he was certainly, shocked at how loud it was. And he sat through the entire concert. And he was cool, and he was listening, and he was digging it, and whatever, until the drum solo.
Uh-oh.
Remember, this is John Bonham, remember?
No, he really liked Bonham. He did. But the thing that happened was that they had a Zulu warrior. It came out and set the kit on fire.
It was the 70s, remember?
Right? Buddy sitting there watching this guy dance around with flaming torches and setting the gong on fire. And at that point, everything shifted. He turned his head and he looked at me. And he just stared at me till the end of the concert.
You've done this to me.
It's like, A, I can't believe I'm here. B, I can't believe what I just saw. And C, I can't believe I sat through this whole thing. But we walked out. He waited till the very end. We walked out. We were deaf for 3 days afterwards. But he actually sat through it and dug it.
Do you know if any of the Zeppelin guys knew that you guys were there?
I doubt it. Although Jason and I are friends, his John Bonham's son. And he tells me stories about his dad all the time, and how Buddy influenced Bill Ward, all those guys.
Right. We talked earlier about playing with singers and how much he loved singers. So here you are, a singer. Tell me about playing in front of your father, singing in front of your father.
Interesting, because I was so young when I started doing it. I was 11, and we were in the car. How it all began is that we were in the car one day. He was picking me up from school, and The Beat Goes On. Sonny and Cher was on the radio, and I was singing along to on the radio. And he said, "Why don't you? We're doing an album next week in LA. We were living in Las Vegas." He said, "Why don't you come and sing that on our record?" I said, "Okay." Okay.
Cool, I can do that.
So, literally, a week later, I go to LA, and we've had no rehearsal, nothing, and we pull up to a nightclub. And I said, "I thought we were going to record." And he said, "We are." I said, "In a nightclub? In front of people?" I had never sung in front of anyone before, except in school, in the choir, of course, whatever. And he pulls me into a nightclub at 12 years old, and we walk in, and it's packed with people. And I'm walking in, and I'm sort of shell-shocked, thinking, I can't get up there and stand in front of people and sing. First person I see sitting right there, Judy Garland.
Midnight Nurse.
So if I wasn't already freaked out, at that point, I ran backstage to the dressing room. I said, "There's no way, I'm not doing it, I can't do it, forget it, not doing it." He's like, "Why?" I said, "Judy Garland's sitting in the front row, I can't do that." He's like, "You'll be fine." So he drags me out to the front, Judy's sitting there, he sits me down at the table with her, and he says, "She is intimidated because you're sitting here, and I want her to sing."
So Judy buys her a drink and she's well, he gave and a cigarette. So, it's Buddy Rich, man. You do what you want.
Come on.
Sing somewhere over the radio.
She actually gave me a pep talk. I've had 2 amazing women give me 2 amazing pep talks in my life. One was Judy Garland, the other was Betty Davis. Amazing. Who told me never be intimidated, never be nervous. If you have nerves, that means you're doing something right. It's the day you're not nervous before you perform that you should worry.
Good to know.
Great advice.
So
and I did it. I got up and that's
right. So you did,
the album. That's the one.
Yeah.
So did it one time.
You sang it once?
One time. That's the
And
only
that
thing.
performance is on the
That's
record.
the
You
one on the
didn't go
record.
back and dub that later.
What we did was we made a single out of it.
Uh-huh.
I got signed to a recording contract after that.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much. And we went in and did a single version of it, a shorter version.
You
in
did
the studio.
in the studio. Got it. Okay, because there was some confusion.
Yes,
about,
we redid it in the studio.
Got
It was
it.
a long band.
So
shot.
I think we have a little video
Oh, do we?
of you with the band. So we're gonna step off for a minute. We're gonna roll this video.
Yes.
She's terrific, she's cute, she's talented, she's also my daughter. Now, Cathy's going to sing her new hit single, The Beat Goes On. Cathy, baby? There's Cathy. Yes, Cathy. Come on in here, Laura. You gotta do this right, you know. It's either this or a sports car, right? Right. This is going to be a thing called The Beat Goes On. We hope that you enjoy it. You ready? Okay. I'll go right up here and play these things. Oh gosh, drums. I didn't mean that was.
Drums keep pounding the rhythm to my brain. La-da-da-da-dee, la-da-da-da-da. Charleston was once the rage, History has banned that stage, The mini skirts, the current thing, Teeny boppers on newborn king, And the beat goes on. The beat goes on. Drums keep pounding the rhythm to the brain. La-da-da-da-dee, la-da-da-da-da. The grocery store's a super fun. Little girls still break their hearts, Men still keep on marching off to war. Electrically they keep their baseball score. And the beat goes on. The beat goes on. Drums keep pounding the rhythm to the brain. La-da-da-da-dee, la-da-da-da-da. Grandma sitting chairs and reminisce. Boys keep chasing girls to get a kiss. Cars keep on going faster all the time. Bob still cries, hey buddy, have you got a dime? And the beat goes on. The beat goes on. Drums keep pounding the rhythm to the brain. La-da-da-da-dee, la-da-da-da-da.
How cute was that? Come on. Cathy, so Check out those dance moves. Yeah.
Your father loved to play behind great singers.
He did.
I mean, the gigs with Sinatra,
Yes.
are well known, but he had a whole host of people. Joe Williams, there were
Tony Bennett.
Tony Bennett.
There were so many, and it's funny. He was on tour with Sammy Davis Jr. and Sammy decided to fire his drummer, and we were just at the beginning of the tour, and there was a month to go. So Sammy asked my dad if he would play his show, and it's interesting because he had that incredible ear and didn't know, I mean, literally the second night of the tour, so Buddy didn't know all the charts and everything. Sat down the first night and tore it up. Done.
Yeah.
And loved it. I mean, he had already, exhausted himself by playing his set, and then came out again and played for Sammy for a month.
One of the things that he referred to, particularly in the 60s, was, and why he thought that younger audiences were attracted to what he was doing, because he had what he called the big beat. He used that phrase repeatedly, the big beat. And I'm wondering what does that mean to you guys, the big beat?
I mean, to me, it's Cathy said it really very well earlier on. His personality, and I think really fully realized musicians, their personalities come out through their instrument. Now, a drum set is not a melodic instrument in a rock setting, and it's there's not notes and a horn or a piano or guitar, so it can be somewhat, to me, more difficult to really hear like someone's personality come out through their playing on the drum. And I mean, to me, that's just like, that's him. That's who he was. And she said he's known for his bombastic, speed and technique, and he had that, and that was, his personality was, a part of it was that, and it was a big part of it. But also, I just feel that like the big beat part was also, being in a big band, the way, talking about driving a group, it had to be powerful. I had to, really quick, we did a thing about 10 years ago now, wasn't it? It was a while ago. In New York, where a bunch of drummers, we played with the Buddy Rich Band, and I got to do Birdland and a couple other songs, and Don Lombardi, who works for DW, the founder of DW, sent me a audio of Buddy doing Birdland, but it was just the drums. He had the audio of just the drums. Really? Yeah. And then he actually had it to where it was just kick drum. And I was like listening to this fucking kick drum. And it was the big beat. Yeah. He was feathering it. It was, I was just like, what is that? And you wouldn't hear it. You know what I'm talking about, right? You think it's like boom. It was like somebody, 4 people were dancing on this guy's bass drum, and the sound, it was this big open sound, and it was a big dancer. And he was a tap dancing. Right. That's the other thing we haven't even talked about yet. It was unbelievable, and I was like, "There's no way."
And he used to say,
I'm not going to give up.
Talk about drums being a melodic instrument.
Yeah.
Now, he would have told you that the drums are a melodic instrument because he said it's as much of a melodic instrument as a violin or a cello or anything else. You never hit a drum. You don't beat a drum. You play the drum. So, yes. And there were times when you would hear him, like West Side Story, it's the first thing that comes to my mind, is that he would be playing melodies along within the solo. Yeah. So you'd hear I Feel Pretty, or you'd hear America, or one of the other West Side Story tunes along with the solo. So he was playing a melody along with it all. So it was very melodic.
And I was more talking in like a rock and roll setting. Sure. But that's being a musician. Of course. Yeah, not just a drummer. If you're a musician, you play melodically with the song, accompany the song, play the melodies, certainly in jazz as well. It's like when you soloed, it wasn't just you played a form. the beginning, a middle, and end. It was often that went with the melody and stuff, and he
And that's
was a
what
master
about soloing too, is that it tells a story.
Yeah.
You know, you'll see somebody sit down and play a solo, and they're playing everything they can play in the first 10 seconds, and like by the 15th second, you're like, okay, enough. I see what you mean.
Well, got it.
But
Yeah.
like, he was saying, it tells a story. It's a beginning, a middle, and an end.
Yeah.
So you are telling something.
I have to talk to the drummers for a minute here, because he had a whole philosophy about practice, and I want to get your take on some of this stuff. He thought the idea of practicing technique was not the point. He didn't believe in technique for technique's sake. That it was more about expressing a musical thought and a sound. So there were many interviews where he talked about, he did not believe in using a practice pad. And it's like, when you go on stage, you can use a pad or a snare drum.
Right.
Yeah.
So talk about your approach to practice.
Real quick. There's one buddy story, and you tell me if this is true or not, that where a kid came up to him and said, "Buddy, do you have any, rituals and practice things that you do before you go out and play like that?" He goes, "Yeah, sure. I take my hands out of my pockets."
What do you do to warm up?
What do you do? What's your warm up?
The reason when he was not
so there's your practice.
Right.
But as the time on the road, time off the road, the man did 312 dates a year. So I'm saying, yes, he didn't necessarily have to come home and start woodshedding. I've just got to find a little of this technique that I saw this. I don't even know. What let me try something Krupa did.
Yeah.
I don't know that's really his. Boy, I wonder if that Max Roach guy has come up with something that. Let me see if I can work that out. I just don't really get to know enough Max Roach. It's Buddy Rich, so he's inventing things, first of all. I don't want to put him godlike, but think about it. This God sitting around going, boy, you're going to make a better treat than I did? Look at that. Look at the mountains there. Okay, but getting back to Buddy practicing, the man didn't necessarily practice, but he worked. Because also, I don't know if that quote's in there, but you'll say, there's another quote that he says, you get better by playing with the band.
Yeah, he was all about.
So you figure, yes, not only that amazing technique that you just saw there, but playing melodically with a band. Just imagine, any musicians in the room, you play better when you do play in your group than as a, yes, you technically sit in that basement and, my God, look at this. Of course I play just like it. Look at this. I'm Steve Smith with hair. I mean, this is
amazing.
I could drop all the names. Look at me, I'm Neil Peart without Rush. Look at this. Double bass. Put a third bass drum, I'll do that too. I can do it with my mom's shoes on, it doesn't matter. Now these Cathy's, I didn't realize she's going to be wearing the leopard too. Great, now the secret's out. Greg and Cathy share clothes, not only for the love of Buddy Rich.
And underwear.
Oh, hey, I rarely wear underwear. When I do it, I'm excited. But, getting back to Buddy...
Where did I lose control? This is what I wear.
No, I'm wearing underwear. But
how did we go from practice technique to leopard underwear?
Yeah, I have no idea.
I said the leopard boots, baby. I didn't go to the underwear.
What did
your
your father say to you about practice? Did he talk to you about, maybe even about practicing singing? I don't know.
But he did tell me, and to any musician, he would say that if you're going to be a musician and you decide to do this with your life and it's a passion for you, go and learn everything that you can learn about it. Be the best at it that you can be. Whether that means going to 4 years to Berkeley, or going to North Texas, or going somewhere, but go somewhere and learn everything there is to learn about your instrument, and then go out and do it.
Yeah, because another great quote of his talking about teaching drums. Those who teach only pad technique or reading teach the parts of drumming in an isolated form, separated from the whole. I mean, he thought about this stuff. They don't teach drumming as it really is, drumming as it's professionally practiced on the job, with a performer's concept, sensitivity, interpretation, and musical purpose.
Well said. I mean, you practice to get techniques that can facilitate the ideas that you want to be able to play and they can come out on your instrument. And there's nothing wrong with that. That's a great thing to do. But there's nothing like playing music with other people. I'm talking about playing, and I think he wasn't in a hip hop band with turntables and stuff. Like he was playing with other
Right,
people,
right.
as I do. But that's playing music. That's not practicing. And there's that human interaction, and then get in front of a crowd is another thing. It's one thing to play with your band when you're rehearsing. That's great. But then when you do a gig, it's a whole different thing. It's a performance. It's there's no shortcut to that. And I think if you do that, like he did, 300 and whatever days a year, it's like, you know, you get good at driving a car after a while. It's like pretty easy. At first you think, oh my God, I can't drive. And once you do it that much,
yes,
there's no practice.
Did he
You just do. You don't practice, you do.
You do it. Right.
And he did it 300 and so many days a year that, I don't think he had to come home and work out.
But people ask me that all the time, like,
Right.
did he practice at home?
Right.
When he was home, I mean, if you walked into our home, you would never know what he did for a living. There wasn't a stick, a drum, anything in our house, ever. So that is exceptional on its own.
Sure.
And then as far as, no, he never came home and practiced on pillows or, did anything like that. He worked. That was it.
Yeah.
He worked.
Did he talk to you, particularly before he put the big band together in '66, did he talk to you about bands that he loved to play with? Who did he
loved
really
Count
like?
Basie.
Yeah.
That was his number one man. He loved Basie. Yeah. Dorsey, he said, was like Hitler. Dorsey was Hitler.
Well, go with that a little bit.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah. Let's go there just for a second.
I mean, obviously that's way before my time, but
Right.
yes, he said that playing with Tommy Dorsey was like, he enjoyed it, and then when Frank Sinatra joined the band, he liked it less because he was the star of the band before Frank joined, and then Frank thought he was the star, and then they were roommates, and when Tommy introduced Frank to my dad, he said, I want you to meet another pain in the ass. So
That's
that
cool. I
gives you a
love
little
that.
starting point.
That's good.
That was it.
Basie, he loved Basie.
Love Basie.
How long did he play with Basie?
He didn't. He just loved.
He didn't?
No, what happened was Basie's
No, he
drummer.
never played with
he
him.
never played
No, never played with him.
Didn't he play a gig where he like plane
He
check?
would guest with him.
His drummer was sick. I don't know if it was Sonny Payne, it might have been, but he had to leave for a week. And Count Basie asked my dad if he would come and play for the week. And he said, come, I'll pay you, right, to let me do it. And at the end of the week, Basie wrote him a blank check. And he said, just fill it in. And he tore it up.
Yeah.
He's like, it was my honor to do this. Yeah.
That I know.
Yeah.
That I know.
Sure.
So he also had the opportunity in this, working with Norman Granz and the Jazz at the Philharmonic series.
Yes.
Got to play with all these amazing artists. It was not necessarily, you got some pushback about, the quality of the music or at that time, but looking back now at it, it was a remarkable series of concerts, and then you made all these records for Verve that were astounding.
When he got to be on the road with Ella Fitzgerald and all these amazing
Yeah.
people with Jazz at the Philharmonic, again before my time, so I can't really comment on it. But I do know that I believe Gene was on that tour at some point.
Yes.
And Gene, my mother actually was dating Gene before she met my dad.
Really?
TMZ.
You know what I'm saying? Just maybe we can get a
Who needs
scoop on this.
TMZ? We got this.
Which story are you going to give them?
No, I'm just wait, that
The good one?
Is there a bad one?
Well, there's two of them.
Well, I'll tell the good one.
All right, tell the good one.
Which is that.
Say it.
Now you,
What? I'll say it. You
no,
say
I'll say it. Just Gene made the mistake of asking my dad. He was going somewhere, and he said, I want you to meet the kid. He's a great kid, my dad, and because he was 10 or 12 years younger than Gene. And he said, I'm leaving town, and he asked my dad, would you just, take her out to dinner, do whatever.
Big mistake.
Big mistake.
Do whatever.
Do whatever.
What plumbers do.
Show her a good time.
Good time with the convertible.
In the tenor of the times, we
Yes.
it's a whole different discussion.
A whole different thing. But he did, and he proposed to her on that first date.
Get what?
Yes.
Wow.
And she said, "You're
Well, hold
insane.
on.
You
So,
don't know
okay.
me."
So the
I
button
know
to the
everything.
story is when Gene came home.
Well, no, but the other portion of
Came home, his buddy was in bed with his girlfriend.
No, this is more of the drumming aspect of it for the drummers in the group here that would like to hear about it, because I found this just
Don't let
unbelievable.
another drummer date your woman is the key there.
But if you notice, Chad's already kissed her. So we've already got a whole senior, but I do have security right out there. No, that's all right. He's very nice. Colorful gym shoes. But no, the aspect of
They look like the Partridge Family bus.
The Gene Krupa Cathy Rich thing. I mean, because we you know, as drummers, I know we try to say like we're just such a wonderful community of drummers and we love each other. God, it's just amazing. Isn't he play good? I wish he'd fall off the stage. I don't mean everyone in this room here. But I'm just saying, the drummer's like, God, I love the way he plays. Did he hurt his arm? Okay, but getting back to business, I'm talking to Cathy's mother, Marie, and at the time she's with Gene at the time before she meets Buddy, and they're doing these drum battles, the great drum battles. And now, I found this quite interesting. Maybe you won't, but what would be the first thing you'd say is that going up against a drum battle with Buddy Rich, Gene asks Marie, "Who do you think was better?" Now Marie, I mean, brilliant woman, but still in love with Gene. She wasn't in love with Buddy yet, right?
Not
This
yet.
was when they were still like just on the road. She said she'd put her hand behind her, cross her fingers and go, "Well, of course you were." Also, on the side of the stage, so
Less than
polite,
he
you go,
was.
"I'm just going to do what I do." Gene says, "Well, could you do less of what you do?" You know, Buddy would be like, okay. And you could see, like, Buddy would probably start out, come in like a lamb, but then leave like an AR-15.
I read one interview that they did together at some point, and I will say Buddy was incredibly deferential.
Loved him.
To Gene.
Loved
Incredibly
Gene.
deferential.
Oh, adored Gene.
Yeah.
Yes, and gave him a huge party. Gene got sick, and my dad said, you know, we're not letting him go out without letting everybody tell him how much we love him.
Right.
And he threw a party in New York with, you know, like 50 drummers that came, and it was amazing. And, you know, so he just said, you know, I wanted to give him something.
So one of the things, you can't be a musician without being a collaborator, without really understanding the nature of collaboration. And I'm wondering, you know, thinking about Buddy and the way that you all participate in music, to you, what made him a great collaborator?
Buddy? His sense of like musicality, just the way he played. I mean, technically, yes, I don't see a flaw in his playing technically. And then just listening to the other musicians and the way he's able to set them up, like we were talking about driving the band. Well, driving it doesn't mean just overdriving it or something, but yeah, the musicality, the man's sense of time, because I mean like keeping time. I don't mean he had a nice watch. It's like, God, it's 3 o'clock, I should be getting going. I mean like the sense of what he did with this music. That, because I talked to the fellas in the band, because I speak to them once in a while. I mean, if I have time.
Yeah, of course.
I mean, sometimes Cathy and I are really busy.
Yeah.
We fly in late. They're on a bus. You know.
He's really taking this Buddy Rich thing like all the way down.
Buddy's not here.
I said, you're really taking this
You're
Buddy
taking it
Rich thing
serious.
like all the band.
Well, I was just saying, I don't necessarily, I don't call them by their first names. But I'm just saying, I mean, whatever. You playing that horn, put that thing down. You know, and I'm here, and just don't look at me. Talk to Cathy, she'll tell me. No, but I'm saying, they said, these men played with Buddy, and they said that he would actually, I mean, if I want to go completely musician, I mean, but he would play through measures, play through bars, just to make sure those men were reading that music and keeping up with it. And I'm saying, Buddy was able to do that. I don't mean just, he was a prankster, I don't mean that, but I'm saying that's what made that guy, to me, you know, when I listen to him play, being a drummer and certainly trying to play some of his music, which I may try to do later today. But I mean, that level of, I mean, you call it musicianship, you call it just technical ability, I just really, to me, I have not seen anyone else do.
I think that his ability to listen was what made him such a great collaborator. Because you're listening, again, it's 15 different humans that are on that stage with you, each going through something, and each having a different thought pattern, and his ability to hear ahead of what they were playing, if that makes any sense, knowing what's coming. So to be able to set up a solo, to be able to play behind a soloist and know that you're not too loud, you're not too soft, you're holding them.
Yeah.
And so I think that's what made him. I mean, he wasn't a writer. He didn't write music. He didn't read music. So when people brought charts in for him, he would sit out in the audience and listen through, and just hear everything, and then get up and play, which is impossible.
Yeah.
I mean, if you think about it, he had a photographic memory for music. So he could sit and listen to a chart once and be able to know every hit, where everything was, where everything came in, where the soloists were, where.
Yeah.
Amazing.
So, fair warning, I'm going to ask for a couple questions from the house here in a minute. But I understand you're working on a documentary.
Not a documentary, a film.
A film?
A feature film.
A feature film?
Yes.
Can you disclose? You can't talk, unless everyone signs non-disclosure agreements.
Yes, let's just say that we are in the process of doing a feature film.
Fair enough. I mean, just based on what I read preparing for this oh my God, what a life. What a life.
I mean, just that whole vaudeville part,
yeah.
The roaring 20s, all of that.
Yeah. Incredible. So, I'm sure there are very knowledgeable people here, much more knowledgeable than I, who might have a question or two. Yes, sir, way in the back.
I want to share something. I've been doing publicity since 1974. I started with mailroom. My dad did a job there.
Microphone.
You get the mic?
Go ahead.
Talk loud.
Go ahead. Just speak up if you could.
One day I'm sitting in my office about 2:30 or 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and somebody called me, and they said, "Would you like to do publicity for Frank Rich?" And I said, "Yeah, that would be great. Meet him at the Tonight Show." So I went out there, and so he said, "Hey man, come to the Fairmont Hotel in San Francisco." And I just want to say that it was a thrill to do things for him. I loved it. I just was in awe that I was doing stuff for him. I didn't work for him long, but I thought it was just a wonderful. I treasured the memory of what I did with it. And I spent a week with it in New York. And what was the name of that road manager that I took from? Remember that? You call him right?
Steve Peck?
Steve Peck.
Yes.
The other thing is I'm a huge fan of Big Band, and it's mind-boggling to me that he was with Artie Shaw and he was with Tommy Dorsey. And I just got done rereading Tommy Dorsey's biography, Levinson, and he was with Tommy when Tommy was out here doing films for Indiana. And I just want to share with all of you. One, I think it's the Wine Orchard.
Yeah.
And if you go on YouTube, it's an ultimate Buddy Rich experience. He's playing with this very famous actress that's dancing with him. It's great. So I'm honored to be here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for being here.
Thank you very much. Yes, sir. Right here.
First, thank you, Cathy, for keeping his legacy alive. It means a great deal to all of us that grew up as our hero. I wanted to find out, as the legacy continues, what is the biggest misconception people have about your dad?
Good question.
Wow. That the bus tapes defined who he was. Because that was not. It was a part of who he was, absolutely, because he was a perfectionist. And if the band was playing less than what he thought they should be, he was going to let them know. That's it.
Yeah.
I mean, who of us have not been yelled at by our boss? Billy!
Billy Paul.
I love you.
Many years.
Yay.
You were an embryo.
I was an embryo. You were 35.
My name is Billy Paul, and I'm now Paul.
Still?
You
said Julie Garland.
I love you. But the point that I want to say is I would like to recant the story because I got to know Buddy Rich, obviously through Cathy. I became his friend, really a friend of the family, and for many years, but his for the last year of his life. And it's one of the great honors of my life. He was my idol. So I wanted to recant a story that I know not everybody knows, because this was told to me by Pete Myers. I am a drummer, unfortunately. And I played a concert, and Pete Myers wrote the arrangement for Love for Sale. So this story was told to him by Herb Ellis. Now we know that Buddy always basically laid back when he played against Gene Krupa or Louis Johnson. He loved him. You know, you and I, you know,
Yes.
been at the house, forget it. So the point, though, is that this one particular time he was at the Chicago Opera House in 1956, and he was facing off with Louis, and he always held back because he didn't want to destroy anyone.
Right.
Well, this particular time, Herb Ellis and the entire Oscar Peterson trio was behind the two drummers, and so they could see what they were doing. But a big mistake happened because stage left. Pearl Bailey, before the solos were going to start, said, "Go get him, honey," to her husband, Louis Bell. It wasn't pretty. So Buddy turned red, according to Herb Ellis, and he let Louis play everything, all the bass drums and things, and, you know, he played Nola, and he played a timpani and a sound. He finished, and Buddy proceeded to play everything known he could play in humankind. But he had a little something extra for Louis. He said, because it wasn't Louis, it was just like, I've been challenged, I'm the king, don't do that. He took both feet and played on one bass drum pedal and proceeded to play. That's what I'm saying, it's an unknown story. Herb Ellis, who's now passed, said it was the Oscar Peterson trio, Ray Brown and themselves, looked at each other like, oh my God. Because what happened was the ceiling and paint of the Chicago Opera started to come down and fall because he was a little steamed.
You think?
And then when he got done, I mean, basically he had played an entire solo, talk about feathering, non-feathering. There were more feathers than you could have seen on a 60-pound pillow. So by the time he got done, he went, "You got it, Luke." Let's bring the band in.
That's great.
Love you, Cathy.
Love you.
That's great. Thank you.
Greg, I want to say this too. I am a friend of yours. I'm proud of you. You do a magnificent job, and you're in an impossible chair, and you do a great job.
Last question for you. So this is your father's centennial?
Yes.
It's been a whole year of celebrating. Tell me some of the things that you've been doing to honor your dad's legacy.
We started the year in Los Angeles at Catalina's. And we've just sort of been having celebrations all around the world. We were at Ronnie Scott's in London for a week. We were in Japan. We've been sort of everywhere. And it's been, we have had a star put in the Walk of Fame in Palm Springs, and that was pretty amazing. You know, we're hoping to do it in Hollywood at some point down the line.
Yes.
But it's such a surreal thing because, you know, you see people going to those ceremonies and you see all that, but when you're actually kneeling on that red carpet and they pull the wood up off the star, I mean, it actually brings tears to my eyes right now because it's amazing.
Yeah.
You know, that he will be there forever.
Yeah.
You know, and it's that to me was sort of the highlight of the year. It was fantastic.
What do you think your dad would have thought of
this?
You know, this.
He wouldn't have believed it.
Really?
You know, it's funny because, you know, he came off as, you know, with that bravado and he was, you know, this guy, but that's really not who he was inside. He really was a marshmallow. And he was always stunned to think that people, A, knew him, B, admired him, or C, wanted to do anything for him. And so to think that today, 30 years after he's gone, that people are still talking about him, still interested in him, still listening to his music, we have a band on the road, I don't think he would believe it. I think he would be crying, number one.
Yeah.
Yeah. That would be it. He'd just be sitting crying.
Well, all I can tell you is we're so thrilled that all of three of you took the time to come down and celebrate with us. I mean, it's a remarkable. And, you know, we can't get away without do here in just 1 minute, but if you would, one more time, round of applause, Gregg Potter, Cathy Smith, Cathy Rich. Thank you all very much. Greg, take us out. Thank you all.
I didn't bring my drumming shoes.
The orange one?
Where's everyone going? Then we're gonna just, they just left me up here. I'm gonna do 3 minutes. Let me just, go. There's the boss. Oh, wow, drums. I'm gonna turn this off, or I'll talk between each tune.
Don't get you up there.
Boy, I gotta take the jacket off, because I gotta return this to, where'd I get this one from? This a kid's gap, or did I get this a lady's gap? I don't know. Got it somewhere in Hollywood. We're gonna sell it so we can get up to, get on the plane early. In Southwest, give them $15 and get on the plane early. If I can pawn that jacket, Gabby and I can get on the plane. Whoa. I didn't know if anyone would ask me a question or something. Well, that's a lot of thing behind it. How much time do we have here, kids? What am I doing?
We got all night.
All right. Don't worry, I'll play them all fast.
Actually, I think I have time for one more.
Yeah.
Where's Cathy? She tells me how many more I... Oh, she said fine. No problem. There's probably a shoe sale somewhere on the internet. No problem, Greg. You just keep playing. We're going to be playing a gig in Cincinnati, Ohio. Just to pay for something. They even set me up with a towel there.
Give it up for Gregg Potter. Come on. One more time. Gregg Potter and our guests, Chad Smith and Cathy Rich. Come on. Thank you all for coming to the Grammy Museum. Next week, Mike Love, Clyde Davis, Ricky Sambora, and Lori Yancey. We'll see you then. Good night. Oh, video. We got a video. Don't go away.
You think you can get the bottom and you're feeling really low. You mustn't feel discouraged. There's always one step further down you can go. So let's start to get inspired. When you're lying in the bed, feeling just a bit unsure, just wait until tomorrow. You may be lying flat-faced down in a sewer. Honey, think of all those sewers. Don't be afraid of the little rumble. What's that, for goodness sake? It's nothing. Just remember, one little rumble started the Frisco quake. Take it on a park bench, eating grass 'cause I've no dough. Your luck will change mañana. You may be 6 feet under, helping it grow. So just remember, when you're lower than low, there's always one step further down. Oh yeah, there's always one step further down. There's always one step further down. You can go. Why, thanks, Mr. Rich. I feel a lot worse. I like to help.